Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it's sort of the lunch hour, and a lot of you might still not have eaten. A heads up for those of you who have not eaten yet. We will be talking about food, so I hope your stomachs don't growl out in protest by the end of this session. But I'm pretty sure that our conversation will satiate your hunger for factual information, if nothing else. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Raj Ganpath. He is a certified fitness and nutrition coach and also the founder of the Quad. Most of you, I'm guessing, have seen him on social media talking about health, nutrition, fitness with clarity, brevity, and zero hype. Recently, he's also come out with a book called Simple, Not Easy, which, by the way, I think can apply to everything in life. But this one is a no-nonsense guide to fitness, nutrition, and weight loss. Thank you so much, Raj, for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And
Okay.
apologies in advance if I'm going to ruin your lunch.
So I'll start by asking you about your own personal fitness journey. You mentioned in the book that you had asthma as a kid and that you led a very unhealthy lifestyle even when you were in your early 20s. And then one fine day you started running. What brought that change? Just a quick overview of your fitness journey.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a very active childhood. I think most of us in general, if you think about it, if we're not athletes, right, we don't really get into sport. Even if you think about your parents and stuff like that, they don't necessarily model that kind of behavior. It's not very common for us to see our parents go to the gym or lift weights or play sport. Right? So fitness was never really a part of my life, and I grew up fairly unhealthy. In other words, not diseased, but unhealthy in the sense that I couldn't really do anything physically exerting. And asthma was a serious problem from the time I was, I want to say, about 10 years old. That's the first time I had my asthma attack. And other issues in general, but all respiratory in nature. So activity was kind of out of the question. And as a kid, you learn to deal with it. You know what I mean? You learn to not be active, just work around it. When I was about 25, that's when I kind of got into fitness. Until then, there was nothing between me and fitness. Interestingly, I mean, you know, the way you said it, you said one fine day you just started running. It was not that simple. I was going through a tough time in life at that point of time. Caught between, I don't know, just just a couple of bad places, both with respect to work, with respect to personal life, family, all of that, and all of that was, you know, kind of playing. And I was essentially doing what most people do, self-destructive behavior, right? And at that point of time, I realized, or I just thought out, what if I could use this angst, you know, this emotion that I have to really build myself? And that was the time I decided to run. In fact, it was quite a dramatic moment where I remember just catching my reflection in the mirror, and I couldn't recognize myself. It was just a person who had lost the plot, right? So I figured, okay, I got to do something about it, and I decided I wanted to run because that's the one thing I was never able to do, just never, because I would always have an asthma attack, and it was scary, right? Especially as a young kid, if you have an asthma attack, you suddenly realize you're not able to breathe. Right? You're not able to think about anything else. So one fine day, I did go for a run. I ran 100 meters, like literally 100 meters, just, you know, here to there. And I had an asthma attack. This was very common. So I would have this inhaler with me all the time. But that day, when I went for that run, I did have an asthma attack, and I was sitting on the curb, and I had to use my inhaler, take a couple of puffs. The only difference being that day I said, I'm going to go again. I'm not going to give up. So I rested for about 2 to 3 minutes, let my breathing settle, and I ran again. And another 150 meters, I had another asthma attack. Did the same thing, did it again, did it again, did it again. I covered a kilometer, and it took me more than an hour to cover that kilometer. So that was the first time when I said, you know what, I'm going to do something. And that's pretty much how my journey started. From there on, I just wanted to be able to run more. So I was just running more and more and more. And then I started getting interested in nutrition because even though I was running, even though my fitness was getting better, my asthma was not getting better. I always have to have that, you know, puff with me, the inhaler with me. And that's when I started doing research, trying to understand what exactly happened. And from the time I was a kid, from 10 years old to 25 years old, we've tried everything for asthma. homeopathy, naturopathy. You guys remember the little fish with the medicine that you drop in? Yeah, all of that. Nothing worked. And as I did my research is when I realized that, okay, maybe I am allergic to something nutrition. Maybe something's causing a trigger. And that's when I started looking into nutrition. And I looked deeper and deeper and deeper and did a lot of experimentation with myself. And what couldn't be cured in about 15 years was done in like 8 months. And I was like, wow, there's something here which I didn't know. And again, do remember, back in the 90s, early 2000s, the concept of using nutrition as medicine didn't really exist the way it does today. Okay? So the idea was to learn to use lifestyle changes to improve health. And that's essentially what I did. And as I was doing that, I realized I had a kind of an interest for this. At that point of time, I was working in medical devices. I was still in the US at that point of time. I was working as a research and development engineer in California. So I was a trained engineer in the sense that there's a problem, you learn how to solve it, right? And that's precisely what this was. But when I realized that this was so powerful, I figured, you know what, if it's helping me so much, maybe it can help so many other people, right? Especially in India. So that's when I got my first certification. So I wanted to learn more about fitness and nutrition, and I was just getting bits and pieces, from the internet here and there. And I realized the best way to learn is to do it in a structured manner. So I'll just get a cert. So when I was getting a certification, I was not working with anyone. I had no intentions of, making this my career or anything of that sort. I was doing really well in my career at that point of time. But when I wrote that certification, when I started preparing for that certification, something changed. See, I'm not a great student, so to speak. Okay, in the sense that I'm a hard worker. I can be street smart, all of that, but I'm not someone who can remember what's in a book, go and write it. That kind of student. But when I was preparing for this certification, it was a very different experience. You know how they say, you have a calling and stuff like that, right? I never knew what that meant. But with fitness, when I was studying for the certification, when I wrote it and I aced it, and I was just able to see things. I was able to see patterns. I was just able to understand how things fit. And from there, there's been no turning back. From there, the only goal has been, how can I make an impact in people's lives? Right? Because health as such is something that we don't really focus on as much, especially today where it's needed. So about 15 years ago, when I started doing this, it was worse. Right? Like most people didn't know much about fitness. It was mostly about going to a gym, doing things like bodybuilding, you do chest and back on one day, legs and whatever on the other day, and you do elliptical and treadmill on the other day. There was no functional training, there's none of that. And you would hardly ever see any women in the gym at all. That's how things were. So once this clicked, then it was very clear that this is what I wanted to do. From that day till today, the book, the companies that I founded, the people I've worked with, it could be an Instagram reel, whatever it is. The only thing that's running in my mind is, can this be useful to someone? How can we, improve someone's health? And it's been a really, really rewarding experience.
So I don't know about anyone else, but many of us are not into running, guilty. But our lives certainly are run on algorithms. You're on social media, and algorithms keep changing, right? So I wanted to know first that does that put pressure on you on the kind of content you put out? Because there is an information overload, much of it misinformation. How do you see through that clutter, separate fact from fake?
It's a good question. Let me, in fact, answer the first question, right? You said algorithms changing. Honestly, I don't care, right? Because I feel personally, see, if you're someone who's trying to be a content creator and you're trying to build a livelihood around that, then all of this matters, okay? That is, you have to be aware of what is happening. As far as I'm concerned, I write for an audience of one. And what I mean by an audience of one is anything that I write, it could be a book, it could be a reel, whatever it is. If 1% benefits from it, 1%, I'm good, right? It justifies all the effort I put into it. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm writing for one person, I'm doing this for one person. And lately, over the last couple of years, Instagram following has grown or whatever. But I've been writing for, 15, 16 years now. I started off by writing a blog. And the point of the blog was so I can learn more and research more. Then I wrote for The Hindu for many years. Then I obviously for many magazines, Facebook, all of that. So the idea is that it's not that I'm creating content. The way I see it is I'm teaching, right? At the very core of it, I'm a teacher. There are people who want to learn fitness. So Instagram is one platform in which you can teach. Media is another platform you can teach. So as long as you're looking at it from that perspective, then what exactly happens with the algorithm doesn't matter. Right? As a general rule, I believe we need to try and create value. Okay? If you create enough value, the valuation will take care of itself.
A lot of fitness these days, at least on social media, is about how one looks rather than how one feels or is. You see a lot of people hitting gyms, building muscles, toned bodies, or you have some influencer, raving about the latest miracle diet. But people in both this, you see them collapsing as well. So, how do you view fitness and what role it should actually play in our lives?
So, to be honest, right, I mean, I'm sure all of you would agree, fitness has a lot to do with looks. Okay? So, if you define fitness overall, it's not just about losing weight or getting stronger or lifting weight. It's about three things. It's about looking, feeling, and functioning better. That's what it comes down to. Look, feel, function. All right. And the first thing is look. Now, why? Because we are very visual animals. Our primary sense organ are eyes. We make sense of the world using eyes, using light, using colors. Just like a dog makes sense of the world using smell. For us, our dominant sense is vision, sight. So looks are a big part of it. And wanting to look good is not a wrong thing. Aesthetics are absolutely fine as a goal. And if no one cares about looking good, why do you comb your hair? Why do you wear makeup? Why do you get new clothes, right? Why do you wash your face? You can just walk out there, right? The idea, what you want to remember is that looks are a big part of the human culture. We assess each other based on looks, right? How well you look, right? How unhealthy you look, how strong you look. All of this matters when you look at someone. We are constantly collecting information. So looks are a big part of it. So there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is if you say looks are the only reason why I'm training. I don't know, into fitness or I'm eating well because I want to be skinny, because I want someone to appreciate me. Then all your motivation, everything is, just from the external. There's nothing intrinsic here. Right? What we want to think about is look, feel, and function, because I spoke about look, but think about feel. When you exercise, when you eat well, when you sleep well, you feel better. Okay? But here's the thing. No one knows how you feel, but you know how you feel. And once you realize that you are feeling better, that feeling is addictive. You want that. Now, just show of hands, how many of you here sleep more than 7 hours a night? Excellent. How many of you sleep less than 5 hours a night? The first group and the second group, you experience the world very differently. Okay? Now, the first group, 7 hours, you know what it feels like when you sleep 4 hours or 5 hours, right? It's very different. But for the group who's constantly sleeping 4 hours, 5 hours, they don't know what they're missing. Okay? So the thing is that once you realize how much better you feel, then you start doing it for you. Not because you want someone else to come and tell you, hey, you look fit, hey, you look good, you look skinny. That's nice, sure. But for reasons beyond that, you want to do it for yourself. And that's where the feel comes. And the function bit is actually very interesting because if you think about it, all of us play various roles in our lives. Okay? We could be parents, we could be kids, we could be siblings, we could be bosses, we could be leaders, and we could be employees, we could be many things. We're all playing many roles. And every single one of these roles comes with a certain set of expectations and responsibilities. Okay? So at the end of the day, fitness is the ability to do the things that you need to do and the things that you want to do. Okay, so when we're talking about function, that's what it is. As a parent, how are you functioning? As a leader, how are you functioning? Right? As a doctor, how are you functioning? And any of your roles, how are you functioning? And for you to be able to function better, you need to feel better. Right? And that's where fitness comes in. As a general rule, fitness makes you a better version of yourself, whoever you are. You could be an accountant, you can be an engineer, you can be an athlete, you can be a wrestler. You becoming 10% fitter is going to make life better for you. So the way to view fitness, again, while aesthetics are a part of it, it cannot be unidimensional. It is nuanced. It is multidimensional. If you start pursuing fitness, you are going to look better, yes. And that is what is going to get you started. Absolutely, that's fine. But once you get started, the other changes that you experience, those are priceless. And that's why you'll see anyone who's gotten into fitness, they get to a point where they're like, you know what, if I don't exercise today, I feel off. If I don't eat well, I feel off. That's because you're able to balance things out, right? The temporary discomfort that you're going through in order to get the long-term benefits of it. So look, feel, and function.
You also wrote that fitness is no longer a choice, but a necessity, which is understandable. Our lives have changed. We rarely move these days. And I think it is something that most of us here will agree. But a common refrain is that what should I be actually doing? And how do I find time for that? What would you say to that?
See, there's the three things that we have to talk about, right? There is the what, there is the how, and there is the why. Okay. Firstly, let's just talk about the why. One reason is what you just said. Life is very different today. We live right now in an age of convenience and abundance. Okay? As I was walking here, I saw at least 3 places where you can get amazing food. Okay? In fact, by the time I'm done talking, if you order something on Swiggy right now, you will get it before I'm done. Okay? Those 3 clicks on Swiggy, that is hunting, gathering, cooking, cleaning, everything put together. Okay? And we literally don't have a reason to move anymore. Right? The average person walks 3,000 steps a day. 3,000 steps. 3,000 steps takes about 30 minutes to walk. Okay? Now, in a day of 24 hours, we walk 30 minutes. You know what that means? That means it's an amazing time to be alive. That's what it means. Because everything you need to do, all your chores, everything put together, you're able to do it within 30 minutes of walking. Go back 20 years, go back 50 years, go back 100 years. It was not possible. Life was hard back then. And so lifestyle changes need not be made. Today, life is easy. And so we have to make the lifestyle changes. That's the why. Okay? It has moved on from being something that's a choice for muscle heads and gym heads to just, lift weights and build muscles, to it's necessary for all of us. Because what we used to call just general movement doesn't exist today. So we are forced to embrace exercise and movement and nutrition and all of that. That's the why. Okay. Now, if you talk about what most people are talking about on social media or whatever it is, everyone's so focused on the what. What should I eat? What should I not eat? And so we start obsessing about these things. We start counting calories and how much protein does this have, that does have. And beyond that, once people run out of content, they're like, oh, you should not eat this food with that food. You have to mix this and that. I mean, all of this just causes paranoia, right? You guys have heard of the whole paralysis by analysis kind of thing, right? That's where we are. We're stuck. But in reality, if I asked all of you here, do you know what you need to do to get fit? Of course you do. Are you telling me you don't know you have to eat vegetables? Your mom's been telling you that from the time you were 3 years old. Are you telling me you don't know you have to exercise, that you have to go to bed early, that you have to walk? You know all of it. Like literally, you know everything you need to know in order to get fit. But how do I do it? I'm not able to do it. That's the problem, right? Because the world around us has changed quite a bit. And if you think about it, our bodies are stuck in the past. Our bodies still need the same stimulation the bodies needed 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, right? You need movement. You need all of that. But your brain is in the future. You're thinking, if I order from Swiggy, it's taking 12 minutes. Oh my God. Why can it not be 5 minutes? Right? We're designing for the future using our brains, but our bodies are stuck in the past. Okay? So the how is the bigger part of the problem right now. Everyone knows what they need to do. How do you do it is the problem. And the best part is there are a million ways of doing it. There is no one way to do it. One diet is not better than the other. One program is not better than the other. One equipment is not better than the other. Right? And even fitness has so many different principles. So the idea is for you to figure out how you can do it. Right? So the average person walks 3,000 steps a day. No, that's not okay. Everyone should walk 10,000 steps a day. No, everyone should walk more. What is more will change from person to person. For me, more might be 8,000 steps. For you, more might be 9,000 steps. For someone else, more might be 3,500 steps. Right? So that gradual approach, trying to figure out the how, the execution. We always talk about theory and practicals, right? Theory is very strong. Everyone is clear. But how do you make it practical? That's what we need to work towards today.
coming to the diet part of it, I mean, we come across new diets every other day. In your book, you say that while restrictive diets, calorie counting, portion control, intermittent fasting, they may have short-term benefits, but they don't work. They may not work in the long run. Why do you say that?
See, two things, right? Firstly, you have to remember that, I mean, when diets, you rightly said, there's a new diet every day. Okay? But here's what you want to remember. Every diet is essentially the same thing. Okay? And what do I mean by that? Every diet is a set of restrictions that is meant to restrict calorie consumption. That's it. Think about a low carb diet. What does a low carb diet do? It doesn't let you eat too many carbs. And by virtue of that, it reduces the amount of calories you consume. What does a low fat diet do? Reduces the amount of fat you eat. And so it reduces the amount of calories you eat. What does intermittent fasting do? It reduces your feeding window. It says you can only eat for so many hours, right? I can come up with my own diet right now. Yeah, I'm going to call it the pizza diet. Okay, from tomorrow, you can eat only pizza, nothing else. And guess what? You will lose weight if you follow that diet. You know why? For the first day, you're going to be excited. Second day, you're going to be excited. Third day, you're going to be like, oh, pizza again. By the 10th day, you don't want to eat the pizza. You know what I mean? You're not going to overeat it. You're just going to get so bored of it, right? So eventually, you can convert any set of restrictions into a diet, right? The idea here, though, is to remember that calorie restriction is necessary because we live in an age of abundance. If we don't restrict ourselves, we will end up overeating, right? We live in an age of convenience and abundance where, left to our own devices right now, we will not move and we will eat as much as we can. Have you guys seen the movie Wall-E? Anyone? Yeah? That's basically how we want to be. Just want to be lying down. Everyone thinks everything is taken care of. We don't have to move. And in case you're wondering, but 100 years ago, my ancestors did this, did that. If your ancestors were, around today, alive today, they would do exactly what you're doing. Okay? Because it's human tendency to eat more food and move less. As a general rule, the human body is wired to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. It just makes sense, right? Because the body was designed for the past. Okay? So what we want to remember with respect to diets is diets work if you follow them. But diets can be followed only for a short period of time. They are short-term solutions. There is no diet that has been created for you to stick to for the rest of your life. Every diet you can stick to, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Someone with a lot of resolve might stick to something for about a year, but eventually you're going to give up because it is not sustainable. That's why you can use diets, but what you want to really think about is strategy. What is your strategy? And this strategy might involve various diets, right? So always remember the long term involves multiple short terms, right? So you can't take one short term solution and say, I'm going to do this for the long term. Let's say you're doing a low carb diet. You're doing it for 3 months. You lost, 5 kilos. Now you're like, great, this is the best thing there is on the world and everyone should do this and I'm going to do this for the next 30 years of my life. It's not possible. But if you can just look at this 3-month diet for what it is, it's a short-term diet. I did it. I lost 5 kilos. Great. Now where do I go from here? How do I make it sustainable? So in the long term, you can use diets as short-term solutions, but you need a longer strategy which connects it. Because whether you like it or not, you have to manage your fitness and your weight for the rest of your life. Okay? Sorry to break it to you, but that's just how it is. There's no way around it. Even the fittest person you know, or the unhealthiest person you know, everyone has to manage their health and fitness. Everyone. Think about it as financial management, right? If I asked you, who is financial management for? Is it for the rich? Is it for the poor? Is it for everyone? It is for everyone, right? Doesn't matter how much money you have to manage it. Similarly, it's not about how fit you are today. For the next 30, 40, 50, 60, till your last day, you have to manage your health and your fitness. So when you think about it that way, you're not going to go for diets or against diets. Diets are a part of it, yes, but you need a much longer term strategy. And where does that strategy comes from? From understanding the basics. And what are the basics? You have to walk a lot. You have to exercise regularly. You have to eat less. You have to eat well. You have to sleep enough. And you have to manage stress. These are the 6 things. So no matter who you are, these 6 things are important. How you do these 6 things will change. Some of you will choose a diet, some of you will not. But if you don't do these 6 things, one way or the other, you're going to struggle. Does this make sense?
Now we'll come to the current obsession, which is protein. Everyone's saying up your protein intake, and there's also creatine. Does it really work for everyone?
Protein is necessary. I think everyone will agree, right? But a vodka which has protein, I don't think that's necessary, right? Right? I mean, we're kind of crossing the line here. Right? It is true that there is a protein gap. Right? As a population, we are a carb dominant population, right? If you ask someone, what did you eat for breakfast or lunch or dinner? The item that they would name will be the carb. I had rice or I had roti or I had, dosa or whatever that is, right? But here's the interesting thing. Any population in the world is carb dominant. Not just India. Think about it. It could be Spanish, it could be Mexican, it could be Italian, right? It could be any population in the world. It is carb dominant, and there is a very strong reason for it. Carbs are the reason we are alive today. Okay? Starch in general, when you're talking about grains, okay? Until we had agriculture, before agriculture, when we were all hunting and gathering stuff, one big problem was we couldn't store food. If you, I don't know, hunted an animal or you gathered some plants, you have to eat it then and there. You may have heard of this term called feasting or fasting. Yeah, back in the day, that's how it was. You went for a hunt, you killed a big animal, you better sit there and eat the whole thing. Because there's no refrigeration. If you just let it go, it's going to rot, right? So you have to eat it. Okay, so refrigeration was far away. The first time we learned how to store energy was when we figured out grains, cultivation. Because grains are portable. You know what I mean? You can store it for months and still cook them. Unlike fruits, vegetables, meat, all of it. And that's why every cuisine is dominant in carbs. In India, it is rice and wheat. If you go to Mexico, it's corn and rice, right? So based on where you are, it's some corn, some grain or the other. So because we've become a carb dominant society as a population, over a period of time, the amount of protein we're consuming has gradually reduced. We've just eaten more and more carbs. Okay? So if you look at the 3 macronutrients right now, and if you look at India specifically, and in fact, if you take the latest ICMR study, right, you know that majority of our calories are coming from carbohydrates. Then the second highest is fat, and the last is protein. Now, don't get me wrong. 100 years ago, this was still the case. But 3 things were different. Number 1, people moved a lot more. And so they ate a lot more. And simply by virtue of eating more food, they got more nutrients. Okay, that's one. The second thing that was different back then and now is the quality of food. The kind of food that we have right now and the kind of food we had back then is very different. Okay, so always remember, consumption is not absorption and absorption is not assimilation. Just because you're eating it doesn't mean you're getting all of it. Okay? And the third thing that's different between then and now is the ratios, the proportions of how we eat them. Now, if you think about sweets, people ate the same sweets you're eating now, people ate it 100 years ago. Except back then they ate it 3 times a year. Today you can eat it 3 times a day if you want to. Right? You can get sweets for breakfast, no problem, absolutely none. Right? So the abundance, right, availability of things has changed. And as a result, we have gradually chosen to go towards things that feel good, taste good, which is what? Starch and fat. Right? If you think about any dessert that you love, anything that you like to eat, you will notice that it has fat, sugar, and salt at some level. In fact, if you go into food engineering, have any of you heard of this whole Ruffles thing? No one can eat just one. Yeah, it is engineered to be so. And in order to engineer that, they add layers of fat, sugar, salts. When these 3 things come together, it is almost impossible for you to not eat it. In fact, I dare you, just go home today and just take something sweet. I don't know, honey, sugar, whatever it is. And take something fatty. I don't know, ghee. It will taste good. There is no way it doesn't taste good when you add these 3 things. And naturally, our taste buds and convenience have pushed us towards that. And so we don't eat protein anymore. So the gap certainly exists. So what we need to do is we have to balance it out by eating more protein. Now, I would say the same thing if we lived in a hypothetical universe where we're eating a lot of protein and fat and not eating enough carbs. I'd say we have to eat more carbs. right? So the idea is not that protein is more important than fat or anything. It's equally important, but we're not getting enough of it. Okay? So as a general rule, all of us need to try to get at least 1 gram of protein per kilo of body weight. But you can do that by simply including protein in every meal that you're eating. Right now, if you think about your breakfast, let's say you have dosa, chutney, sambar. There is zero protein in that, right? So instead of eating 4 dosas and chutney and sambar, you make it 2 dosas, add a couple of eggs, and you're done, right? Every meal can be balanced out. You don't really need to go the whole protein vodka, protein, chocolate, protein bars, and all of that. You don't have to go that route. That is just economics and consumerism. Okay? You see the word protein in your mind, you make the connection that I'm not getting enough protein, and so you buy that product, right? So I would say choose foods and not products in order to fill that protein gap.
So weight loss has become a buzzword these days. A decade or so ago, people went under the knife. Now people are popping pills to lose weight. You say that weight loss need not be the concern or goal for everyone, but weight management, health management should be. How do you differentiate between the two?
See, weight loss is a part of weight management. That's what you want to remember, right? See, weight management is a very boring word. No one likes that word, right? Weight management. But the moment you say weight loss, click, take my money, right? I'll just give you everything. That's how we're thinking. That's because we think weight loss means it'll shrink me, right? I will be skinnier, get more validation, acceptance, whatever it is. Weight management, on the other, sounds more like a very clinical term, right? Like, why do I have to manage weight? But in reality, we have to manage our weight. And weight loss is a part of managing weight. For some people, weight management might be gaining weight. But those some people are, very, very few people because of how we live. And I also want to make it clear that, see, all of us mean well. But do keep this in mind. It is not your fault that you continue to gain weight. Everything is stacked against you. Just think about the stuff that's happening around you, right? Now, there's some guy like me who you listen to once in 3 months or once a year who's telling you should do all this. But every day, 100 times, you're being spoken to by the Coca-Colas and Ruffles and whatever brands that's pushing out there, right? In fact, the other day I got this sample thing from Swiggy when I ordered something. Okay, it was a Complan sachet, and it said your protein dose for the day. All right, it's a protein dose for the day, and it's for kids. And it said every kid should have a sachet of this to get their protein needs. Me, I am already thinking in my head, these guys are bullshitting us one way or the other. This probably has like 10 grams of protein. One scoop usually has about 25 grams of protein in a protein powder. I have decided this one has only 10 grams, that they are scamming us. Okay, I've already judged them. And then I open and I look at that pack. You know how much protein was in it? Can someone guess? 5 grams, 4 grams, 0.9 grams. Okay, 0.9 grams. That's like the company literally insulting us by saying, you know what, I'll say this is high protein, and I will also mention that it has 0.9 grams of protein. You still can't do anything to me. Right? That's the problem. Now think about someone who's not, kind of well attuned to health and all that, and they want to do something that is the best for their kids. They look at this sachet from Complan, and it says your daily dose of protein for the day. Why would you not buy it as a good parent? You would. Right? How many people have the time to go over all the health information? And protein on the marketing is in this big a font, and the 0.9 grams is in the back somewhere in a tiny font which you can't read with 3 glasses, right? So everything is stacked up against you. Your intention is good. You want to eat well, you want to move well. But when all of this is happening, it becomes almost impossible for you to make the right choices. So what we need to remember is, at some point we have to take a step back, and we have to realize that it's gotten too minute, right? I mean, the minutia has become too big a deal. Everyone's trying to sell something. If we can simply focus on eating real foods, right, including protein and vegetables in every meal, most of this will be sorted.
Sadly, we've come to the end of the session. I had many more questions, but I would end with, towards the end of the book, there's a chapter called Embrace the Hunger. I think all of you have embraced it enough. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thank you, Raj, for the enlightening session. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
We can have a quick question from the audience, just one. Please keep it brief
Sure.
and crisp. We're out of time.
Sir, I would like to ask on the vegan meat, the misnomer. Vegan meat, vegetable meat.
Vegetable meat, yes.
Vegan meat.
Yes.
3D printed meat. Could you please elaborate on it?
See, I have two thoughts on that, right? If you want to have fake meat, right, the pseudo meat that you're talking about, right? So depends on what you're trying to do here. There's nothing wrong with eating meat, of course, as long as you're not overeating anything specifically. So if you are a vegetarian who wants to get more protein, there is tofu, there is tempeh, there are many options. One of those options is fake meat. But this fake meat, pseudo meat, was created as a way to help non-vegetarians embrace more vegetarian foods. Now, this is a very Western thing. If you go somewhere, I don't know, in the US or Europe and say that make me a vegetarian meal, everyone's confused for a bit. How do I make a vegetarian meal? But in a country like India, we have so much, our cuisine is so rich. We don't need fake meat. We can eat vegetables, just vegetarian food regularly and get enough protein. So you don't have, unless you have too much money to spare, I don't think you should go for it.
Simple, Note Easy is now available at the counter. As our session draws to a close, we wish to formally recognize the time and expertise offered by our panelists. It is my pleasure to invite Jacob Kora, Managing Manager, Marketing, Manorama, onto the stage to hand over a small token of gratitude to the speakers for Manorama, Hortus and Bisleri.